In at 10, Moondrop. I never needed a FNAF animatronic to dress like a hype beast. And I don't know what it is about these damn security breach animatronics, but everything about this game is seemingly getting memed, okay? The Moondrop animatronic, as they're being called online, are basically just hype beasts with the Moondrop face photoshopped over top, which is certainly one of the most basic fan versions, but it's still scary because I don't need this. I never needed to see a FNAF animatronic wearing Supreme merch. Like, why on earth? Why would someone choose to do this? Like, you willingly created this. I get the whole like Gregory sus meme because let's face it, he vented and nobody can deny it. We were literally on cams when he did it, not even a joke. We were literally in a camera room. And I can get the whole like Vanny or Vanessa simping, trust me, I can get that. But Moondrop? That's taking it too far. We already have Gregory being a little demonic Fazbear hype beast with all of his Faz merch, okay? We don't need animatronics to be goated with the sauce, alright? In at 9, Human Sunnydrop. Any human version of an animatronic is creepy, okay? Especially human versions of non-human animatronics. Like human Ballora and Baby, that's fine. They were humanoid to begin with. But humanoid Freddy and Chica, God no. This time though, Sunnydrop is in that kind of gray area. Like it's kind of humanoid, but it's not based on a human. It's like if the sun was a person, and I've seen that before. Turning Sunnydrop into a human only enhances this idea further as well, since this guy straight up looks like Heat Miser from The Year Without a Santa Claus. This guy is about to fight to melt the North Pole and sing some damn catchy tunes, okay, even if he doesn't in Fahrenheit. Only 3 countries in the world still use Fahrenheit. Did you know that? 3. Out of 197 countries, only 3 of them use the imperial system. The US is one of them. You're one of 3 countries. Come on, step up your game. Anyway, the human Sunnydrop or Sundrop, whatever you want to call it, creeps me the hell out and makes me kind of cower in fear, okay? He's the kind of clown that asks you if you want to play games after your parents go to sleep and then is killed by Sam and Dean Winchester because he's secretly a monster. In at 8, Internet Rule Moondrop. The rules of the internet are sometimes a glorious thing, okay? They can help you know what to avoid or what to search if you're into that kind of thing and your legal viewing age. However, when I just look up an animatronic and start getting some of the most famous internet rule of all time, that's an issue. This thing is literally just a personification of the moon. Why are you people so into that? Like there's even Springtrap art of this nature. And he's like a skinned human in a robot suit. How is it that people are simping over Springtrap and Moondrop, yet I'm still here single and unloved? I don't get it, honestly. Moving on, personifying the moon is one thing, but then giving it genitals and then causing it to do obscene things, just stop. This would have been higher on the list, like it would have been number 1, because this is the scariest thing that I've ever seen, but I wanted to tell people to cut it out sooner rather than later, because the retention always drops off near number 1 for some reason, even though it's the one that everyone wants to see. But hopefully, by doing this, I can cut it off at its legs. Stop it. Get some help. In at 7, Statement Saturn Sundrop. Knitter.net user Statement Saturn Sundrop version posted on December 28, 2021 is certainly a beautiful bit of artwork. However, I believe the inspiration for this was the character of like Dream XD from the Dream SMP, or at least it seems that way, which kind of makes this scary. This version is very godlike in a sense, okay? It has like a floating sideways halo of sun rays and a really flowy outfit, but despite the character smiling, it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. And ever since my sister became scarily obsessed with the Dream SMP, anything of the sort triggers me. This dude looks like someone who'd watch people from outside the pizza joint and like creep up to the window and peek in. And I mean like really peek in, like only coming up enough so that he could see what's inside while trying to keep his body hidden and he's only showing his eyes. And if he couldn't get a good enough angle while he's on the ground, he'd crawl up the wall and then like look in from the top of the window. And if anyone calls him out for it, okay, he'd kill them, he'd off them in like a second, and then he would continue. That's what I think this dude's personality is like, okay? He doesn't interact, but he does like to watch from within the closet. And at 6, Human Moondrop. The human Moondrop is creepy for the same reasons as human Sunnydrop. However, the biggest problem with the human version of Moondrop is that he's always creepier, okay? He's the emo brother that everyone pretends doesn't live at home. It's some of the absolute scariest damn human animatronic hybrid I think I've ever seen. And I've seen a human version of a baby Ballora hybrid combination animatronic. And that was some nightmare fuel, but this is even worse. Like, no matter who's drawing it, any version of a Moondrop character is always a combination of like Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians and ironically enough Snow Miser from The Year Without a Santa Claus. Possibly the Snow Miser thing is clicking because of the juxtaposition with the sun version of the character, but still. I think that this guy is, instead of like watching from outside, he's the guy who watches from the inside, sneaking in the shadows, like a creepy rogue stealth archer, but he's not shooting arrows, if you know what I mean. He's no. Halfway through, in at number 5, Chibi Sundrop. Chibi Sundrop is even worse than the human versions, somehow. Mostly because I feel like it's too close to a form of gacha life character and that just makes me cringe. It's scary not like in an appearance kind of thing, but just because this is what would be in my nightmares. Like, don't get me wrong, okay, I would have to be on a lot of meds and would have to have an absolute metric ton of sugar to have this nightmare, but it's still possible. I doubt other people would consider this scary, which is why I'm putting it at number 5, kind of like halfway through, but I don't know why, okay? The whole chibi thing sets me on edge. It's just creepy. Like, why do you want these things to have eyes literally half the size of their head and so incorrectly proportioned? I don't like chibi designs, I really don't, and I can't tell you why. Okay, you just need to take my word for it. In at 4, Moon Man. Moon Man by ArtMama113 on DeviantArt is pretty damn haunting, and in a design way, not it's a bad way. Like, the artwork itself is great, and definitely better than anything I could do, but the creep factor starts with the fact that the eyes are glowing red, and one of them even appears to be smoking. No idea how this could happen, but hey, it's a thing. And the clothing design is also creepier than the normal Moondrop, just being like a whole galaxy. It's like Shane Dawson got a hold of the clothes when he was doing his like whole galaxying phase, and I think that the person doing it is already speaking to how creepy this is. With like the actual skin texture also being visible and it looks like a moon, not an animatronic. Or some like very, very old and crusty cheese that really needs to be thrown out. Or as I would say, banished, being the cheese king. But I think that the icing on top of the creep cake here isn't the smile that gives me a million different war flashbacks, or the shoes that make me feel like Cicero is on my tail, or even the tips of the fingers that for some reason are a deep, deep blue. Instead, it's the fact that this version of the Moondrop animatronic is saying, "Come closer, child, I'll make your death a painless one," which I very much doubt that you will, you sadistic. This guy looks like he enjoys torturing and then gets off on it. And like, why are you wearing a crop top? Great art though. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Statement Saturn Moondrop. The reason I thought the inspiration behind the Saturn Sunnydrop was the Dream SMP was because the Moondrop version was called Nightmare in brackets, whereas the Sunnydrop version was called Dream. Now that could just be a reference to how these characters would originate from dreams or nightmares, but I don't know, I just drew the parallel. Anyway, this version of Moondrop also just looks like a combination of the moon and Slender Man. Like, this man has 4 black tentacles that are coming out of his back, and honestly, he just looks fed up with everyone. He's slightly humanoid, which like I've said before is terrifying, and he also seems to have emo hair that's the same pitch black as the rest of his body. And he looks like the wizard that's been trying to get me to buy his magic. Wait, that guy probably isn't an actual wizard. Penultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Sunnydrop. And considering how this is a Nightmare animatronic, I'm pretty sure you understand why that one was only number 3. Picture Nightmare Yawn and then just make it the Sunnydrop animatronic and you have what Nightmare Sunnydrop is in essence. Which makes him creepy as hell, because we all know how I feel about nightmare versions of puppets, okay? Normal puppets, not creepy, that's fine. But the nightmare versions that are meant to be creepy are definitely going to mess with me. And this guy is messing with gold, okay? Gold is my color, and we all know that. This creepy dude also doesn't need those weird buttons, okay? Like, what's the deal with those? Why are they so creepy? I don't know why buttons of all things are creeping me out. Like, it could be the torn body, or the ruffles around the neck or waist, or the fact that he has bells on his wrists, but no, it's the buttons. Why am I the way that I am? And don't even get me started on his bony little chicken legs. Those are even worse than mine. Are you serious? And that's saying a lot, bro. Plus, the shoes are just weird and creepy. Excellent job though, Living Corpse 7 on DeviantArt. Excellent job. And finally, in at number 1, Nightmare Moondrop. Yes, the Moondrop version is going to finish us off this list because have you seen it? Man's is like the Nightmare Sunnydrop on roids, and then every other single illicit substance imaginable that would get us demonetized but also ruins your appearance. Like, see, this is why you should only have pharmaceutical drugs, and only when you need them, because what the Not only does he have the same creepy leg and body and arms as the Sundrop version, but somehow this man's shoes got bigger. I don't know, how? How? You're supposed to be the same thing with a different color scheme. How did your shoes get bigger? And suspenders? Really? That is a horrific fashion choice, and trust me, I used to wear suspenders, so I'd know. Not to mention the whole implication that this guy's watching me when I sleep, and his first words in game are naughty naughty boy, and then everything else he says would get me put on multiple watch lists if I said them out loud. And those claws? Like the Sun version has them, of course, but like, they just look more menacing on this guy. Holy sweet niblets, Mindly Ray Stewart. In at 10, Possession. This theory comes from Sebi and stuff on the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza fandom page, and they seem to think that the daycare attendant is possessed, saying, quote, okay, so, as in the FNAF 3 bad ending, we see all the souls in the eyes of the animatronics with 2 lights in the golden Freddy head. A theory which I have already disproven since Crying Child, who is presumed to be the other soul, shouldn't have been introduced yet. This has turned into a theory about Golden Freddy having 2 spirits inside of them. Though now I wanted to bring up who else has 2 white eyes, the daycare attendant. Now those eyes don't necessarily glow, but they are 2 blank and empty white eyes, and there are 2 forms of this animatronic. 2 forms, 2 spirits. Now in Security Breach there is a new form to show that the animatronics are possessed, and it's glowing red eyes as a part of the blob. Afton is the excuse since his eyes are purple because obviously it's Afton. Now again, there is something that's part of the daycare attendant that shows his possession feature. The Moondrop animatronic has glowing red eyes. End quote. This leads Sebi to conclude that the daycare attendant is possessed by 2 different spirits. And while this certainly is interesting, I don't think that it would be the case. The daycare attendant doesn't actually have enough of a role in the game to be one of, if not the only possessed animatronic in the game. And again, I've already disproven the 2-eye theory from FNAF 3's bad ending. Link to that video is in the icon. In at 9, the arcade conspiracy. This theory comes from Reddit user Averdict_AV on the game theory subreddit discussing Sundrop and their glitching arcade game. This is because I really like the daycare attendant Sundrop and the fact that he is not dangerous and lethal to Gregory, which seems not to be discussed much, but I might have a theory regarding that. My thought is that when we look at the Balloon Boy arcade in Sundrop's room, the Balloon World cabinet, I think it is important that, well, firstly, it's one of the few playable arcade cabinets in the game, but also features a very glitchy section and a glitchy Sundrop. Specifically, only Sundrop was glitched in that game, even though Moondrop and Sundrop are both present within the game. I think this is the reason why Sundrop was not hostile and lethal. I believe that the glitch or the hacks done by presumably Vanny or Gregory to some people that were meant for Sundrop were trapped in that arcade machine. There isn't a glitch Moondrop in the arcade because the glitch or the hack actually got to Moondrop, turning them into a dangerous animatronic. That was meant to turn Sundrop dangerous, but it didn't go through and somehow got stuck in the arcade. When we look at all the other animatronic specific arcade games, not Princess Quest, there is only Monty that is playable, but it does not feature any glitches at all. It just calls back to previous game locations. This is because I believe that the glitch got to Monty already. But if I want to interject here and throw in the fact that the arcade conspiracy note mentions that Chica has an arcade game that's glitching and so does Monty, maybe this theory has a little more juice to it. In at 8, name drop. Get it? Actually, wait, you won't get it yet. You will. Coming from Reddit user The Wizard Muss on the FNAF Theories Reddit page, quote, I find it really interesting that the daycare attendant doesn't have a proper character name, especially given their large enough attractions to advertise with, and in this series most of the animatronics have a proper name unless they're a part of a large group, the mini arenas, the biddy bands, etc. Music Man would have to be the exception to that until Security Breach, now a fair number of them, but I don't know, maybe there's supposed to be multiple daycare attendants? The Pizza Plex is big enough that the daycare would have a lot of kids, and one animatronic probably wouldn't be able to bounce around a group of 20 or so. The only thing that makes me question that is that the parent emails are in the singular when addressing the daycare attendant because they're only dealing with one. I'm pretty sure that Freddy also only refers to one attendant. End quote. And while the character is seemingly called Sundrop and Moondrop, those are also the names of candy that they're advertising. So it might be confusing. Maybe they're not actually intended to be named those. But it's also interesting to think that no character actually calls them by those names. But Freddy does mention the names of the other animatronics, so maybe there are meant to be more than one, or that the situation is more complex than we realize, or dare I say the situation is mega complex. Get it? Mega pizzaplex. In at 7, pain. At me making these lists. Is it possible that the daycare attendant actually feels physical pain when transforming? It seems unlikely, but still possible due to the seemingly agonizing screams we hear while Sun transforms into Moon during that cutscene. Fun fact, the animatronic doesn't actually switch. In that cutscene there are 2 different models, which is why the character falls behind the desk. The only time we actually see the model change between the 2 is in the Freddy and Friends cartoon. However, is it possible for animatronics to feel pain? It's unclear. I mean, we completely decimate 3 out of the 5 animatronics in the Pizzaplex and they seemingly feel no pain through it, fighting until the very end and then beyond. But Roxy is also programmed for emotional pain, at least on the surface level it appears to be like that. But does this mean that they could have programmed emotional pain and physical pain? We don't know. Maybe the daycare attendant did something wrong, so now switching to the Moon form is painful. Or maybe when he's forcefully changed it's painful, or it could just be that Sun is just fighting to stay in control over Moon, but the change in lighting is just too powerful for him, and that's what that is. He's fighting. In at 6, Puppet 2.0. There is a theory that I've seen on TikTok. I can't remember who made it for the life of me, okay? I try and wipe all other exposure to FNAF out of my memory as fast as possible, especially when it's on TikTok. I don't want FNAF to invade my TikTok. However, this theory stuck with me, and it's the idea that the daycare attendant is a new form of the puppet animatronic first seen in FNAF 2, which is interesting and kind of plausible. I mean, we know that the puppet was meant to be a security bot, and the daycare attendant acts very much like a security guard until the lights go off. And when he kicks us out, he does call for security, and then every hour he roams the Pizzaplex like security, but there's still more to it than that. The Moondrop form of the daycare attendant also flies around on wires, much like a marionette would. Marionette being another word for puppet, but specifically a puppet on strings, which is something also often associated with the puppet from FNAF 2. I mean, how else could they jump from the prize counter to your office? They don't need the strings to move, but they both use the strings to get around quickly when they need to, which is also something that's pointed out on the villains fandom page for the daycare attendant. So maybe it's something that we should be considering. Like I guess we need a surrogate puppet after all, now that Charlotte's put to rest, don't we? No, we don't. Halfway through into number 5, half infected. This theory comes to us from Love Nathan Carr on the Game Theory subreddit and proposes an idea as to how just the Moondrop side of the daycare attendant got infected with the Afton virus. Here's a quote from their post. Sundrop seems to be the only one that has no history from what I've seen with the virus. As shown in what behavior he does partake in, he appears to cry when we go missing, he cleans up the place, he tries to entertain us, and he tries to keep us out of trouble. He does not partake in attempting to kill or capture us like the others. The reason behind this is Sundrop and Moondrop are 2 entities in one body. They have different coding. So let's say the story before the virus came to all the animatronics is that the mall is dark for the entire night because Moondrop is not a problem. He doesn't try to hurt anyone. But then Vanny shows up, and since the animatronics were most likely infected at night, it would make a decent amount of sense. The 2 sides have different functions and would therefore require separate programming, at least if they are 2 halves of one whole animatronic. And there's not multiple of them like we discussed earlier. In at 4, look out. Now this is a separate theory that I found within the Love Nathan Carr post on the Game Theory subreddit that I wanted to address separately, so Quote from later on in that same post, actually it's right after I ended the last quote. The night the virus came, Moondrop was infected with the other animatronics, leaving them with a lust to kill or kidnap. Sundrop figures this out, and at some point he brings it up to the proper authorities. So they make the daycare and the pizza Plex constantly lit to stop Moondrop. This is where Sundrop gets scared of the lights turning off, as people will get hurt if it happens, end quote. So this user seems to be suggesting that Sundrop knows what Moondrop is doing and tries to stop it from happening, which could explain why he's fighting to stay in control when the lights go out. I don't know, it's certainly an interesting concept, but it relies more on conjecture and assumption rather than evidence, so I'm gonna have to say objection, hearsay on that one. And at 3, the light. Coming from user ChickNugs on Twitter, they believe that Gregory would actually have been safer with Sundrop in the daycare rather than with Freddy. Quote, unpopular opinion, Gregory was perfectly safe and okay to stay with Sun until 6 AM. Sun most likely would have protected him against anyone else, although Freddy was more caring and thoughtful of what Gregory desired than Sun. Yet it would have been annoying to stay with Sun and be forced to play, but it was undeniably the safest option, apart from staying trapped in Freddy's chest cavity and doing until 6 AM as Freddy recharged the entire time. And which, you know what, it's actually a fairly valid point. I'd still say that being in Freddy's green room and sleeping through the night was the best option, since Vanessa never thought to look in there, only figuring out that they were working together after hearing the Fazwatch call out in Freddy's voice. However, this makes another Twitter user going by the name Dante Loyal suggest that the whole he'd be safe with Sundrop thing is the reason the lights get turned off in the first place, and that Vanny was probably the one to do it so that Gregory wouldn't end up being safe. But ultimately, in at number 2, multiple daycare attendants. Now, we kind of touched on this earlier, but there's actually evidence in the game that can kind of help us. Now, we only see one daycare attendant at a time, but there is the possibility that there are multiple within the Pizzaplex. One indication to this possibility is actually within the daycare itself. See, if Gregory tries to return to the daycare after being thrown out, the daycare attendant, as Sundrop, will appear in the slide and throw him out once again. However, the other animatronics will not come if this happens. Interestingly enough though, this can still happen even when Moon is the dominant personality and running around the Pizzaplex, meaning that even if the Moon animatronic is right behind you at the top of the hour, you can still try and get into the daycare and be rejected by Sun, suggesting that there are more than one of this character. But the game is imperfect and there are glitches galore, so we cannot confirm this as an impossibility or a confirmation. So looks like, as per usual in the FNAF series, all we have is idle speculation and propositions rather than any actual solid statements. Wonderful. It's like the FNAF series has IBS with its lore. And finally, in at number 1, aw man. A customer complaint in one of the lore duffel bags that you can find throughout the Pizzaplex has an angry parent revealing that their child, who previously had no sleep-related issues, has begun refusing to sleep with the lights off and started wetting the bed after being left in the daycare. It is implied that said child has been traumatized by the daycare attendant's moon form. But what could this thing have done to traumatize this kid if they were within the confines of the daycare? Sure, when we get the lights off, we get some psycho dude trying to kill us, but when it's an actual daycare session, why is it so traumatizing? Well, that's where the name and number comes in. Yeah, you see, in the Daycare Attendant mods video, I mentioned multiple times how this dude gives me Chris Hansen conversation need and vibes. And the easiest way to say this without YouTube getting mad is by saying creeper. Aw man, that's right, he's a creeper. I think we all know where I'm going with this. I mean, Sun seriously grabs you and then forces you to play with him, and if you try to leave, he will pick you up and put you right back in your place during the first part of this boss battle. So, I mean, like, if this dude was going around making kids feel uncomfortable and then ruining their innocence, I would expect it. So, yeah, don't put your kids in the FNAF daycare. And at 10, Huggy Wuggy. Huggy Wuggy is the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. Huggy Wuggy was created by Playtime Co. to be embraced by children, because you can, like, hugs, Huggy Wuggy, embracing, yeah. The toy soon became the most successful product of the company, but was eventually modified at some point prior to the events of the game with some form of scientific procedure that turned it into a flesh being with a human brain and organs. It made him a monster, basically. His first appearance saw him pretend to be a statue to fool the player. As soon as the player managed to grab the key for the next room and turning the power back on, Huggy Wuggy disappears from his pedestal, and then, throughout the game, he stalks the player from vents or high unreachable places. And this mod turns this freak of nature into the goddamn daycare attendant. Now, I'll be honest, the daycare attendant is already normally pretty sus if you ask me. Like, this man could use a conversation with Chris Hansen if you catch my drift, but turning them into Huggy Wuggy seems like a little much. In at 9, Simon YOC. Simon YOC is an original character owned by @SolidNoise on TikTok. This mod only replaces Sun, but it is still creepy as hell. I know nothing about this character, but from the comments on this one, it is absolutely terrifying. So let me read you some of these comments so you can have context. Quote, "Oh no, Jangle the Puss Puss has gotten her hands on Roxanne Wolf." Quote, "Whoa, she's so beautiful. Good job, really like it." What? I know nothing about this character, but I think that makes it even worse. Hopefully. Actually, you know what? It's probably better that I don't know. I don't want to know about this character because the more I know, the more I'm liable for when it's revealed that they're actually a predator. In at 8, Shadow YOC. Now, while you might think that this Shadow the Rabbit mod is the dark antithesis of the Simon character that we just mentioned, the mod author states that Shadow the Rabbit replaces Moon, and that Shadow is owned by FightMe024 on TikTok. There are no comments on this one, luckily, but again, this is some creepy. Like, there are only a few images of this, and the last one, which means that I can't make the numbers too long, but for real, this guy is kind of horrific looking. It's kind of creepy. With 2 likes, 111 downloads, and 1.1 thousand views, I think we can all agree that this is even more likely to be a predator than the last character, hence why they're higher on the list. However, unfortunately, this is not the last original character that we'll be dealing with today, but it is still giving me the heebie-jeebies, so we're just going to move on. In at 7, Splenkis and Yoinkus. Now, I really have no idea what these characters are, but I included them because there aren't really that many mods for the daycare attendant, okay? So, anyway, the name also reminds me of the TikTok trend for like the, "What do you think, Wankus Bonkus? Kill him. Oh, you naughty Wankus Bonk." You know that? The Wankus Bonk? Yeah, that thing. Anyway, the description reads as follows, quote, "This mod replaces Sunbot and Moonbot models with the critically acclaimed Splenkis and Yoinkus. No further comment needed. Gonna be real, I don't know what's up with the mod loader stuff, but I'm going to assume it works fine with this. All you need to do is extract splenkis.zip and drag pack chunk 34-windows no editor.pack into FNAF 9 content packs under your game's installation directory." That's all it says, okay? Although I do have to disagree, there is further comment needed because I have no idea where these came from or whose delusional mind thought that this was gonna be better than the original animatronics. Then the comments don't help either. Someone said that the mod doesn't seem to work until they renamed a folder. Someone said, "No way," and another person just replied with "lol." Like, what the hell? Can someone actually help me with this, please, for the love of God? Like, what is this? Who did this? Whose brainchild birthed this? This is wrong. In at 6, Mini Rena. Okay, so this mod is one that we had installed on the security breach, but it's ruined by mods playthrough on this channel, and this was pretty damn creepy. This is basically just replacing the sun and moon with colored versions of the Mini Rena with jester hats on top, and then upscaled to be the size of my nightmares. Now, like, when this was loaded into the game for the first time, I had absolutely no idea that it was, and I was absolutely terrified. But I mean, like, hey, it could be worse, right? Yeah, it actually can be. It's just going to get worse. Wait and see. I will admit, though, that this certainly made the moon animatronic creepier than it was especially when it started crawling around the play structure when I was looking for the generators. I actually screamed and I nearly cried. I didn't come close to throwing up, which, let's be honest, would have made a great episode. Like, imagine if I had thrown up on camera. Like, damn. That's some old gaming YouTuber moment vibes, you know? It's like, peak Smosh games. Halfway through into number 5, Old Sun and Moon. Swamps out textures with edited ones to make them more creepy. Still based by preference if it's creepy, is the description for this mod. And honestly, it's incredibly accurate. And also the foundation for these lists, okay? If it's creepy or scary is based on preference. So I don't know why people keep commenting stuff like this isn't scary, because you know what? It might not be scary to you, but it could be scary to someone else. So stuff off. Anyway, this old texture for Sun and Moon is hella creepy, and honestly I'm kind of glad that I didn't have this one installed, otherwise I might have actually come close to puking. Like this one is hella creepy, dude, and like even just the sun is bad. Wait till you see the moon too. Like they're both cracked like mosaic tiles or mosaic or however you say that word. Like tiles, or like they look like stained glass, and it makes me hella sus. I don't know how I feel about this guy already, but I feel like this guy is going to grab me in awkward places, and then I'm gonna get cuts all over those places because he looks like broken glass. I'm surprised that he didn't just fall apart in the ball pit. Like one little flick and this dude crumbles. They just really seem to be after my fastballs. And I'm gonna keep making jokes about how creepy this because honestly I don't like it. Okay, it's wrong. He's messed up. In it for the daycare puppet. This is just actually terrifying, okay? This is like if Baby and Ballora had a kid and it was in the form of a mini Rena, because, well, you're about to see. This is just absolutely horrifying, honestly. It was originally earlier in this list, but I bumped it up because Christ almighty, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. The mod description for this reads, quote, update, I changed the files and stuff because it was too confusing for y'all. Some didn't even read the note I left, ... Well, it is what it is. Enter here with a new mod. This time the one returning is none other than the puppet as Daycare Puppet. She'll replace Sun and Moon with 2 different models. You can also have Sleepy Guard Puppet replacing Moon and Sun if you like it better that way. And you know what? I don't like it either way. It's a well-made mod, and honestly, absolutely amazing hands down, but this is one of the most cursed things that I have ever seen in my life. Like, dear Lord, why did we think that we had to do this? Why did we have to do this list? I say that as if I didn't make myself do this list, but like, god damn it, me! Getting close to the end in number 3, Nightmare Sun. This mod replaces Moondrop with Nightmare Sun. This creates the Sun Transforms into Nightmare Sun mod by RSH on Game Banana. And let me tell you, this is one hella freaky character. Honestly, this is one of the freakiest versions on this list. And if it wasn't for what's coming up and some slight memeage, it would 100% be the #1 pick. This mod somehow completely removes the feeling of a creeper or predator out of this character and replaces it with actual terror. I don't know how the hell I would be playing this game if this were a part of it. And honestly, if this wasn't supposed to be a ruined by mods series instead of like security breach, but it's actually scary series, I would have been all over this mod because it genuinely makes the daycare sequence horrific. Especially if you aren't me and don't use the whole gamma up screen brightening trick to actually get through it as fast as possible, okay? I found that very beneficial. The first time I tried the daycare, it took me hours, okay? I wasn't good at it. I wanted it to be easier this time around. But with this installed, I don't think I would ruin the mod with that. I would just use the flashlight, but it's terrifying. Penultimately, in at number 2, Waluigi. The Waluigi mod is something that unfortunately I wasn't able to find on the Nexus or on Game Banana, and I think that kinda sucks. This mod was seemingly the basis behind the security breach, but it's ruined by mods video series from Toasted Shoes, because that's the very first one that I saw and it ended up being a load of crazy. This mod wasn't really that well made, I guess, for lack of a better term, since after all the mod just placed Waluigi's model over the Sundrop model and didn't actually replace it, so Sundrop was still poking out at places. But the mod was seemingly removed from the Nexus. But it was at one point there, so I guess it's good that nobody else is gonna have to deal with that. But to be fair, it's also funny as all hell. I wish I could have played with this mod because, oh well, it's fine. I don't have to deal with it. This is still pretty damn cursed and not anything that I would want to deal with normally, but seriously, it's funny. It's hilarious. But still oddly terrifying at the same time. And isn't that the combination we all look for in a woman? I mean, mod, I might have said too much. And finally, in at number 1, the puppet. This is 2 separate mods that work together because, well, they're both made by Braun on Game Banana on the Nexus and turned Sundrop and Moondrop respectively into the puppet from FNAF 2 and Nightmarion from FNAF 4. Quote from the Nightmarion page: "This is a Nightmarion model swap for Moondrop, and yes, I know that the legs are disconnected, but this is the best I can get it right now." But I think that the disconnected legs makes it even creepier because it adds a layer of mystical or magical to the game. And I mean, considering how we're fighting against a woman possessed by the sentient living code of a dead serial killer, I think that a little magic is fine for this series. And I think that you can't really fight me on that point. Plus, then that character ends up getting replaced with a version of the serial killer's original endoskeleton infused body that then also gets filled with his sentient code form. So frankly, put any of these mods on this list would actually make sense, aside from the Huggy mod. I don't think that that fits anywhere. Although there is a Huggy Wuggy is Sundrop mod for Ploppy Playtime, so I guess it evens out. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.